Hi, guys. You can hear my printer going off in the background. I'm printing mom and dad's boarding passes because they're going on their little yearly rock and romance cruise tomorrow. I'm jealous, y'all. There's some good bands coming. Air Supply, Night Ranger, Melissa Manchester. Anyways, can you guys hear me okay? Is everybody here and not in the cornfield? Hey, KSK, Dorothy. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. We'll wait and give everybody a minute to come in before we dive in. Lots to talk about. Lots to talk about. Got some exciting stuff to talk about. New stuff. Got some developments professionally, I guess you could say. Really excited about it. Oh, we got 26 in here now. We can roll. Hey, Tamara. KS. I was thinking today how excited I am, y'all, for CrimeCon. I cannot wait. We're gonna have so much fun. Hey, Be Kind, Janice, Allison. So what's the right? Real happy. This is not a Patreon only live. I realized that when I saw there were 80 people in. I was like, everybody on Patreon's in here. I was like, I don't think I have 80 members. So, but I've been needing to do this, and we will do a Patreon thing maybe tomorrow. I don't have a whole lot to do tomorrow evening, so we'll do that. But I'm really happy. Maya says, "What's your opinion on Melanie's role in Brandon's attempted murder?" It's hard to know. It's also hard to think anybody else would have known where he was living. He had recently moved. A handful of people knew, some close friends, and obviously Melanie's because they share 4 kids. But I think it's just one of those things where if you look at all of the evidence we've seen in Idaho and then even in Gilbert and Chandler that were released, she really wasn't very active in the text messages, and that's because she's smart. You know, a little bit younger than the average person in that crowd. I think if they were going to arrest her, they already would have. Same with Melanie Gibbons Zulema. Unfortunately, it's not a crime to try to kill somebody with some Harry Potter magic. What they could offer to the prosecution there in Idaho and probably here in Chandler is maybe worth more than never being an offender. They didn't have a physical hand in the self-defense theory killing, which was murder in an ambush. You know, I think what they can offer with their testimony probably was worth more to the prosecution. So I would say at minimum, she had to have told Alex where he lived. Yeah, that's going to be interesting because if you remember at Lori's trial, they didn't put her on the stand. She was on for Chad, and she's not on Lori's witness list. Nate Eaton is, poor Nate. He got on there. A lot of her family members. I think probably I saw her nephew that lived with them. Zach Cox is on that list. Maybe she's going to have him give insight into his time there. I don't know. But a lot of her family members, which I thought was interesting, doesn't mean she'll call them, but they are on that list. So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of think the arrests have happened at this point. I think there's a lot of people that have some blood on their hands, but it is what it is. By the way, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but we're going to do a live with Ray Hermosillo. And you know what the rule is? I made a rule. We're talking everything but Vallow. Like, we're just going to chew the fat with that man and just let loose and just have fun. So look for that coming soon. Yeah, they were, Moonchild, if you look at Charles and Brandon and even Tammy, I mean, the adults, it really centered around a lot of the life insurance money. Chad got Tammy's so quick. Yeah, it's crazy. But again, you look at Chad Daybell right now, we're not hearing a word about him because he's done as of now. Will they ever charge him in Arizona? Maybe, but it's going to be the same for Lori. Once these trials in Arizona are over, she goes back to Idaho. She may pop up on the news if somebody gets out of prison and says, "Hey, I was in with her. Here's what she's like." So, yeah, it's interesting. And and I watched Dateline. I actually was going on Banfield at 10, so I had to log on at 9:50. I had my phone, like, propped up right here, y'all, watching on YouTube TV, her interview, which, was enlightening and bizarre, but it's kinda if you go back to that allocution statement at her sentencing, it was kind of the same thing. When she talked to her son Colby, it was the same thing. And, um oh, hey, neighbor, Lloyd Llama, just realized you're a local a few months back, supporting from GSP. Go Mavs. All right. I was a Berea Bulldog, and think I'm gonna be a Devil Dog here soon, but yeah, I love Greenville. Awesome weather the last couple of days, and oh, did the Jennifer Gledhill pretrial happen? I'll have to look. I was actually doing the missing student in the DR. I did a backstory on that, just everything I knew. Very interesting case. What do you guys think about that? They have this person of interest who was at the same hotel, this young man, not a suspect, person of interest, very different than a suspect. Person of interest just knows things that are critical or could know things critical to the investigation. Be interesting to see this one play out. The only thing that kind of stood out to me about him was he kind of just stumbled off the beach at 8:55 because he woke up and he's given some different versions of what happened apparently, but um, people are comparing it to Natalie Holloway. I'm not quite there yet. Um, a lot of people I was reading on social media today, people that were down in the DR around the same time talking about how brutal the current was in the water. Could experienced swimmers struggling to get around, but anything's possible. Did he pass out on the beach and somebody else come up? There's so many options. It's just so sad. Marjorie Chad will file an appeal. It's automatic with a death penalty, and that'll go on for years. It's been, Idaho, they're not Texas when it comes to executing, right? Yeah, just Jake. I did do a backstory on Karen Reed a long time ago, but the way it divides people, I didn't want to do that to my listeners. People are like either guilty or not guilty, and then it's like, they call their grandmas ugly by the end of it. So I'm interested in it, but then again, I don't know how I'm gonna do Lori Vallow and Corey Richards at the same time. The only way I can really dive into both is if they get the change of venue and it delays it a bit, but trying to figure out, am I gonna do kind of a every other day recap and stay a day behind? I don't know, but I am gonna be in Phoenix for a week here, a week there, so I'm gonna have to figure it out because 'cause I'm all in Corey Richards too. Um, Dateline, Keith. I know that's I'm gonna put that as my alarm in the morning because that will get me up to turn it off for sure. Anybody that repeats something drives me bonkers. Um, so what about he wants answers, Kay? Yeah. Um, I know that her family, I know that every side is ready for all of this judicial process to be over. It is a cloud, that hangs over, and you look at the families where you've had Lori's trial, then Chad's right after. Now you're in Arizona and you've got one more to go. They are certainly due some time to really just. I'm gonna have another kid come in. It's coming home hour. She's punching in her code right now. Um, I'm ready for them to have some peace and the peace of not constantly being in anticipation of a court or a trial. Y'all can come in. I'm live on YouTube, but no, you're good. Don't apologize. I didn't tell you I was going. Oh, nice. Do you have fun?
Yeah.
What?
It was actually spooky.
Oh, yeah. Well, y'all go do that spooky. They went to a bridge here in northern Greenville called the Poinsett Bridge. It's supposed to be really haunted. It is a cool place, but you do kind of feel like something's watching you when you're there. Fruit Loop chiming in on Facebook. Oh, yeah. Hey, Fruit Loop. By the way, Fruit Loop, my call dropped today. I tried to call you back. I'll call you back later. We were talking today. How's Grammy? Grammy's good. She's waiting on her shot for, she has some collapsed vertebrae at the bottom of her spine. About every 9 months, it just flares up and she gets the sciatic. So, I'm taking her to the doctor tomorrow, and then she's coming back here to stay. So proud of Mason, y'all. I'm so proud of that dude. If you didn't see my social media, my son was at a competition last week in Charleston for EMT students across the state, and him and his partner got first in their division. So he'll get to go to nationals in Nashville in June. He graduates in May. So I'm super proud of my boy. Um, 36 seats. Is that for Lori? Those courtrooms, I was there for Jodi Arias in the same building, and it was a very small courtroom. Um, yeah, Nate Eaton is on Lori's defense list. Can't imagine why, because at the point Charles was shot and killed, none of us knew Lori Vallow's name, and we didn't know her name until the kids were found to be missing. And then that's when, oh, Tammy died, Charles died. Let's dive a little deeper. Curious what she's going to ask him though. So moving on to, oh wait, one more. Check out Justin Lum's new post about Lori filing to exclude Dennis Coons from testifying as an expert witness for the prosecution. He was one of the responding officers that day. Interesting. Her, you guys may know this, but her expert witness was a defense witness for Jodi Arias, and he does forensics for phones. Very interesting. A lot of phone forensics in the Chandler case. A lot of text messages between the parties, starting with casting out sessions and stuff like that. So, I'll have to read that. Thank you. Well, what about Donna Adelson? That when she took the stand, first off, I think she's taken the stand at her trial. I think she has to. But I don't know that I will ever be able to say she asked for bond because her ear canal is small. Y'all, I was like, for real? Gotta get out, gotta get that wax out. Don't kill people, allegedly. Don't have people killed, allegedly. You know what's interesting to me about Donna Adelson? You think about it. Dan is shot and killed. Over a year later, you have your first arrest, and that is Sigfredo and Rivera. All right. They had to have known, holy crap, like this, we're not going to, they're busted. Then you have Katie. And then you go a bunch of years, you have the bump. You have Charlie getting arrested in 2022. If you think about it, this goal of having these boys down in Miami, which is, what they say is the motive, they had about a year of sort of just being able to chill. And then as soon as Sigfredo Garcia was arrested, they were like, oh my gosh. Can you imagine looking over your shoulder that long, all these years, when really, if you had to just let the man live and raise his boys like he wanted, you wouldn't be here. We're seeing so many cases with custody and grandmothers like committing murder. You have the moms down in Kansas, Veronica Butler, Jillian Kelly. That was a grandmother who was obsessed, wanted the kid. And then you have, what's the other one? What's the other grandma case? I don't know. It's sad that there's a lot, but in the meantime, you put this burden on these boys for the rest of their life that their dad was killed for. Hey, Taylor, do you mind shutting this door? And if you could get that dog out of here, I would love you forever, because she is just like making mouth noises that make me mad. Donna will never be released. No, I don't think so. I think this is because she eats everything. Okay. Sorry. This is normally how my Patreons go. If I had known I was going live, I would have definitely got the dogs under control and told my kids don't come in the studio. But here we are. And this is life, so I'm cool with it. But you think about the burden that these boys have now. They're old enough to have phones. I'm sure they know what's up. At least they can read the news, and to think, wow, my dad lost his life because people wanted me somewhere else that I couldn't be. It's a lifelong burden that I hope they're doing well. They've had this move and things like that. But I think Donna's trial is going to be interesting. And I think we're going to see some stuff we just have never seen before. One thing that was interesting was the recent search warrant for Charlie Adelson's computer, because apparently they found some communication that they hadn't seen on Donna's devices. So are we going to get some new text messages and things like that? I think maybe we will. And do you guys think, okay, I'm going to ask everybody a question. Y'all answer in the comments. Do you guys think out of anybody who would roll, who would be the one to flip on anybody? I'm going to say Charlie. I don't think Donna would flip on Wendi because of the boys. I think if anybody did, it might be Charlie. And here comes a cat. It's like, daggum Dr. Doolittle up in here. Charlie, yeah. Hey, Mimi, what's up? When I want to clear my head, I book a cabin in the mountains for a week. I don't flee to an Asian country with a one-way ticket. Exactly. Yeah, that is yeah, that's a huge consciousness of guilt. They wanted obviously that out, and the judge was like, "No, it's coming in." I love Judge Everett. I love these prosecutors, and her new defense attorneys are doing a good job. It's just they're kind of fighting an uphill battle with all these trials and guilty verdicts and plea deals that have happened, and Katie McManaway's proffer. Um, they've got their work cut out for them. So that's why I think Donna has to take the stand. Although you sort of saw Donna maybe kind of insinuate she was at least going to say, look, Charlie was just telling me to write these checks. I didn't know what they were for. Um, so that's interesting. And then you're going to have testimony from Robert Adelson, who hasn't testified in a trial before. Clearly not a fan of his mom. He did that podcast. I think it's Over My Dead Body. His wife joined him on it, and he kind of talked about his life with his parents and Charlie and Wendi, and it was really good. But, they were wanting to keep some stuff out from Robert where he had sort of insinuated that he thought his mom was guilty or at least capable of this. That's what I took from it. Um, so we'll see. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to go down to Tally for that. That's in June. I'm going to take my kids and get a little Airbnb close to the ocean and enjoy it, make a trip. Christine, that's the $1,000,000 question. You say, I wish Wendi would get arrested. It's one of those things where there's a lot of divided opinions about whether she will. And the thing for me has always been your ex-husband has your kids. He gets shot. He's clinging to life. And you don't say, where are my boys? Like, did he make it to school? Let me call the school and make sure they're good. And then somebody had to know Dan's schedule with the boys that day. And I don't think it was Charlie. I don't think Charlie really cared where Dan and the boys lived. I think he was doing his own thing. But, if the theory by the prosecution is correct, which I think really is that she was the mastermind, it's kind of like, did Charlie just say, hey, look, I got connections. I'm going to be the good son and hook you up. It's going to cost $100,000. I just don't see where Charlie had any reason other than to make people happy to arrange this. And Katie's kicking herself. She didn't take that immunity deal. Because in the end, she told everything in the proffer. And she could have been a free woman. And what's sad is her kids and Sigfredo's kids. They're living with two parents in prison forever. All these kids are the victims, and Charlie's son, growing up without his dad. Regardless of how we feel about Charlie, the kids are the ones that always suffer. Jake, I have to totally agree. I don't think Donna would ever give Wendi up for the boy's sake. 100%. I do think Charlie would be the one to flip, if anybody. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Maya says Charlie just wanted to be his mom's hero. It's so sick. I agree. That's really, I think, was, the only reason. I don't think Charlie said, hey, let's kill Dan Markel. I just don't. I think it, Real Happy thinks if they had enough, she feels like Georgia would have brought her in already, and that could be true. Then again, there's no rush. There's no time limit on, there's no statute of limitations on murder. Do you want Wendi to get on the stand and testify against everybody before she goes? Maybe get her, under perjury or impeach her prior testimony. There's a lot of reasons it could be that maybe they just don't have enough. At the same time, Georgia Kappelman and Prosecutor Dugan have played a great game of chess in this case. Very strategic every move. And I have no doubt if it comes to being able to arrest Wendi, if they're willing to wait and it benefits them in the long run, maybe that's. But I definitely think Prosecutor Kappelman and Dugan are just amazing girl bosses, and I love it. And I love her snark. Like when Wendy's on the stand, in the event of your arrest, and Wendy's like, "What?" Or it's like even though Wendi is a state's witness, Prosecutor Kappelman totally treats her like she's on cross exam. It's so uncomfortable, and I'm here for it. Um, oh, yeah. So Susan, says, "I think Lori's interview reminded me of Diane Downs and her interview with Oprah." Little connection here. So I have somebody I grew up with who is in prison for life in California, and she was cellmates with Diane Downs for a while. Um, and there were times where with the tablets, you have phone conversations, and she was in there with her. It was kind of a small world. I do remember the Diane Downs case. Um, I don't understand why Donna's attorneys are trying to depose Wendi. To me, it indicates a split with Wendi because Wendi will have to take the fifth because Donna can't offer immunity. Good point, Maya, our resident attorney here. Yeah, they're deposing a lot. You've got Sigfredo, you've got Katie. Um, that I tweeted out a big list. Some of the names I didn't recognize, but we will see. Um, So yeah, I'm looking forward to going to that one too. Would love to be there when Robert Adelson or Wendy or Charlie take the stand. It's going to be a little harder to get into that one, I think. We'll see. Difficult research. Hey, Kresha. I haven't talked to you in forever. We need to catch up. Hey, I appreciate you, Renita. I hope I said that right. Um, Amanda says, "Love this chat." Hey, an impromptu live with everybody was like just what I needed tonight. I appreciate it. Um, can you imagine though, like Wendy gets done with her testimony and bam, they get a riot in the hallway? Can y'all imagine? Social media would go wild, would go crazy. First time here. Well, welcome, Amanda Pierce. Good to have you. Uh, Widespread Panic says, "I imagine Wendy is vain enough to believe she is the smartest one of the group and is going to get away with ending her ex." Yeah, that's what a lot of people think. Thank you, Amanda. I love what I do. Really, seriously, y'all. Appreciate everybody because I get to get up every day and just dive into things I love. Um, Rose Petal trial here in Greenville, not over. John Mello was arrested. If you followed that one with me, could be a very different trial for him because I'm curious, does the child abuse material come in with him since that was his daughter? He is asking for a speedy trial. And the last time I looked, it looks like maybe it could be like a May trial. So that's going to be back to back. I think Bradley Post takes a plea deal and just goes away. It's a federal case. They have plenty of evidence against him in video and photo form, unfortunately, for that poor girl and her friend and um, the pets. But I think John Mello's trial could be interesting because if that comes in, do you get a jury that feels sorry for him and says, "Hey, look, he was suspicious, something was going on, and in the end, he was right." Thanks, Amanda, for joining. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, so I think but here's the thing, if John Mello is found guilty, he is eligible to receive as much time as Zachary Hughes did, which would be life. They're violent crimes, but that's my understanding is that's the law here in South Carolina. If you are a co-conspirator and they get life, then you are eligible for life. If that crime, I guess, is high enough to warrant, like a violent felony, which this is. It was accessory before murder. So we also had the death of a newborn here a couple of days ago. I put it on social media. A mother about 20 minutes from here. Trigger warning. I typically wouldn't do this on a live, but it just popped in my head. As she was giving birth, she killed the baby. and she's been arrested. I think I'm going to try to go to the next hearing. I'm not sure. I think she'll have to go to circuit court to go for bond. She's not going to get it. But as the baby was being born, she killed it really brutally. Hey, Lois, I appreciate you. Susan, good to have you here. Wyoming, oh my gosh, Amanda, I love Wyoming. Went through there before Lori Vallow sentencing. I took a few days and just did a solo trip through Yellowstone, and I stayed in Wyoming, and I just want to come explore for like a month there. When I'm an old lady, I'm just gonna get an RV and live in national parks and just like float all over the country. Or that's my goal. I'll probably still easily, yeah, birth baby. Yep. Lloyd Llama, that's it. Young girl, but yeah, it was bad. Used a letter opener, so you could do the math, but seems like the investigators, first responders, very traumatized, understandably. Hats off to our investigators and first responders because they see the stuff we don't want to, and they still have to go home at night and try to live normally. Colorado, can't wait to be in Denver. Me for Crime Con. I'm going to come out a week early with my oldest, and we're going to go to Red Rocks and see Gregory Alan Isaacoff and go to Garden of the Gods and just explore a bit. I'm going to make a vacation. Sheridan, Wyoming. Oh, Meredith, we're the same age. Oh, yeah. Let's do a van brigade. Let's do it. Like, let's do it. I'm all for it. Yeah, I'll be 48 this year, but I'm proud of that. I don't mind lying about my age. Just Jake. Yes, born at home, born in an apartment. They got a call for a woman in distress, and they get there, found she had just given birth and had killed the baby as it was being born. It's just, it is bad. I'm trying to get the probable cause affidavit or the arrest affidavit. So if I do, I may do a backstory on it. I have a really, really hard time doing cases that involve children, but at the same time, we gotta tell their stories too. How about Scott Peterson getting up? Yeah, clearly the pickleball court is intense because he got his little fanny whipped playing pickleball. Everybody's like, "They have pickleball in prison?" I'm like, "I don't even have time to play pickleball, and I have to pay for my meals," but I also didn't break the law, so, have I looked at Thornblade? Lloyd Llama, that could have been such a good story. It has been so quiet. Fitz News broke that wide open, so just a community here in Greenville where there's some allegations that some people that are well-to-do might have been, paying to have some flings with some high schoolers, but I haven't heard anything about it, Lloyd. I need to see what's up. I'm 49. You look a lot better than me, Gigi. Aaron, it is totally the Ulta. Okay. Don't be confused. If I came on here, how I look in the morning, y'all would be like, girl, go to a spa. But I'm not girly. Literally, when I was doing Murdaugh, so Kathy Russin, who is an executive producer at Law and Crime and just true crime genius, one of the first people to live stream trials on the internet through Court Chatter, her old website, she she was like, "Hey, you want to do Murdaugh? Like you're local." I'm like, "Look, I've never done live stuff on camera. If I suck, you can just send somebody to replace me, no biggie." And it kind of did, I settled in quickly. Kathy's like, "Girl, let me send you some YouTube tutorials on how to do your makeup." Because y'all, yeah. I was a tomboy growing up. The neighborhood was mostly boys. I played tackle football. I was a tomboy. I'm still a tomboy. Oh, Kitty, don't come over here pressing on stuff. My gosh, I got a visitor. Y'all, all these animals. What are you doing? No, move. Come here. Come here. My gosh. Sherlock will get up here and literally just like bite my hand as I'm typing. Yeah, so Kathy was like, "Here's some makeup tutorials, just putting this out there." I love her so much. And we're the kind of friends that can do that. Yeah. Um, haven't worn makeup except at church since my first daughter was born, then I stopped bothering at all. Yeah. And you look, y'all ain't catching me in heels. I walk like a newborn calf to this day. It's a disaster. Oh, appreciate you, Amanda. I love researching and deep diving. Ready to do some more. I'm gonna file for some FOIA docs once this trial in Arizona is over. Also, the day Donna's verdict is announced, I'm gonna try to get some more calls. Every time I've asked, we're not releasing anymore, that kind of thing. But I want to get some more of those jail calls. Can you imagine the calls after Donna was arrested? Because we didn't hear that. We didn't get that far. We had the call logs of people Charlie had called, but we don't have the calls. But we know they exist. I'm gonna be getting those, y'all. I might have to like create an OnlyFans account to be able to afford it, but no, I'm just kidding. Don't do. You rescue parrots? Oh my gosh, Amanda. My great grandmother had parakeets. Parrots are awesome. I could see myself driving in an RV with a parrot right about here. And I'd teach it to, be like, I object. If I had a parrot, y'all, it would be literally my sidekick. But at the same time, I'm kind of fearful of like birds close to my face. Their calls are crazy. Oh, appreciate you, Christy. Christy G. That means a lot to me. It really does. Oh, we're all dying for these calls, y'all. Can you imagine? It's going to be so good. Um, why do you think she wants Nate as a witness? Aaron, I have been over this in my brain since he put out there he was on the list. I have no clue because he was not there. Justin Lum literally was there the day Charles was shot. He was reporting on it. And this is before everything really, went full steam ahead with all the murders. It's curious. I don't know. I mean, just because he's on the list doesn't mean he'll be called, but Nate and Justin both such good guys. Really just totally have done this case with their whole hearts. And I'm just proud to know those boys or men. They're just good people. Wonder who Charlie cried to after mom got arrested. Yes, Susan. Thousands of phone calls. And when they had that hearing for her argument for bond, that was what he said on the stand was like, how many calls were there between them? And he kind of goes like, oh God, like thousands. But you saw they were frequent and lengthy. Charlie drove Harvey crazy after Donna's arrest. I know if I was Harvey, I'd be like, new phone, who's this? Wrong number. I wonder if she just wants to confront Nate. I don't know because Nate did say he did his courtroom insider. I retweeted all that. It was before Dateline, and Nate's been talking to Lori through the jail messaging system for a while now. So I don't know that it's. I don't think it. I don't think if she hated Nate, she would be talking to him. He was very upfront about that. Y'all know she just stole my stamps. So those of you who don't know the story, I tell this a lot, but it cracks me up. So after her trial, she added me on, I think it was JPay or maybe Securus, one of the jail apps. And so I get this notification, Lori Vallow wants to add you as a contact. So I was like, okay. So I did. And she sent a thing. So when you're messaging somebody on a jail app, you can send stamps to them. And sorry, I have to get my mom their boarding passes. They're going on their cruise tomorrow. So I was like, okay, all right. Well, I will definitely message her. And so she was the only contact I had left. It was JPay because my contacts had all moved over to Securus. And so I had all these stamps I wasn't going to use. So I said, I'll shoot her the stamps, because I can't use them, can't get my money back. And so I sent her the stamps. It wasn't any money out of my pocket that I hadn't already paid, 6 months before. And then she like ghosted me. So I always laugh and say, never had on my bingo card that I would get scammed by Lori Vallow while she's in solitary confinement, but here I am. Let's see here. He can't, as a witness, he can't be in there when others testify, right? Good question, Amanda. We should try to find that out. Good question. I don't know. Yeah. 'Cause, with Kay, there was that issue in Idaho where she wasn't gonna be able to sit in as a witness, but then they just put her on first. Um, so Lori is mad at Nate. She want she that might be true. Maybe she's playing it to where, but yeah, I don't know. How could you ever be mad at Nate, even if you're Lori Vallow, right? He's one of the purest people I've ever met. Good heart. Um, but that is a good point. Deb points it out too. Um, Nate never heard of her name before she killed Charles. He has nothing to offer. That's kind of my takeaway. He was there with Dateline in Hawaii. I mean, he was on the story. That was who I went to before we even started this podcast. We started it the day they found the kids' bodies. We were COVID bored, and I'm glad we did because can't imagine doing nothing else. But I'll always have a big place in my heart for this case and the victims and their families who have, in a lot of ways, become like family of my own. Love those people. Good people. Um, Nate's been going to the hearing. So he was there yesterday, and I assume he's definitely gonna be there for the trial. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, like, it feels very full circle. I didn't go to Chad's except for I really picked the best time to go. I went the day the defense case started and his kids were on the stand. For me, it's full circle to go for some of the Arizona trials because it's been such a big part of my life for years now. 5 years almost. It'll be 5 years in June that this podcast was born, and kinda just wanna see it through. My heart breaks for Charles. I still can't watch those, body cam videos without just your heart breaks for him. Um, because he was right. Everything he said on those videos ended up being true, and, you know, men are definitely as prone to being victims of domestic violence as women, but we don't have that conversation enough. I love that they won't let her use Tylee's testimony. I was so happy to hear that, and the state put it beautifully. You can't kill a witness and turn around and try to use their statements to benefit you. And that's appropriate, I think. Uh, was Justin in Idaho for the trials? Uh, Not the whole time. He was there briefly. He works in Phoenix, and but he was there, and it was so good to see him. Just those are the two that I really uh had alerts on my phone. Even now, I still do for Justin and Nate. But they were so amazing at bringing us everything in those very very early days, and yeah. So. Uh, Justin's got it this time. Justin's home where this trial is to where, well, even in Idaho, Nate was in Boise for the trial, and obviously several hours away. He's got all those cute little babies. Hard to be away from him. Yep, Charles was right. Nobody listened to him. Yeah, it's all good. So Corey Richins gonna be another big one. I'm curious if they're gonna give this change of venue. I don't know. It seemed like maybe the judge had some options where he was trying to avoid it and said we could bring in people from other counties. Love the judge in that case. There's a lot of good judges on the bench with these cases we're covering. I'm also really, really interested in the Kentucky sheriff. I think that's going to be a big case. The motive, he's trying to plead insanity, or he's going to plead insanity. Uh, had to be a big motive. They go way back. They were friends, and then boom, just shot and killed him. Very interesting. Corey Richins to me is just another fascinating case. Um, hey Audra. Hey Gigi and Alibars. Audra, by the way, we're live on all of YouTube. I put it as public, and that's cool. We'll do our Patreon live maybe tomorrow night. Good to see you too. I hope you're well. Um, it is hard, and you do see, because if you think about it, imagine you're hearing this stuff for the very first time from somebody. She thinks she's a god. Um, it's so far out there, but at the same time, you have to listen to people who are pleading for your help. Um, this is what Lori's case and Chad's case is one of those that, as much as I know about it, if I sit down and rewatch Sins of Our Mother, it blows my mind all over again at the how brazen these crimes were, but also just, bizarre stuff. But man, I watched the Jodi Hildebrandt documentary, and they were so scarily similar in some of their beliefs to Lori and Chad that had that young man not been able to get away and had the courage to get away, unfortunately, I think him and his sister would have been victims. I think they would have been dead. They showed the blurred photos on the documentary. If you haven't seen the actual photos, I don't recommend you go seek them out, but it was severe. It was not tiny little cuts. He was not barely malnourished. He was scary, scary sick, because of them. Yeah, Gabby Petito body cam footage. That is so hard to watch. Yeah, I have to almost watch with one eye open. That was a great documentary, by the way. Really well done, and I love the fact that, um, her parents, all 4 of her parents were on there because they know the importance that young people especially need to be aware of these very subtle signs and symptoms that creep into a relationship, and before you know it, you're in a full-blown cycle, and a lot of times you don't even recognize it, you know? Um, but also an important story for somebody who may be 85 and still living in an abusive relationship. Get out while you're alive. These things don't get better. Um, yeah, Aaron, just so, so sad. I did cry watching Gabby's. It's just, I have daughters, and I have a son, and I tell my son the signs of abuse. Luckily, my 2 big kids have amazing little boyfriends and girlfriends, but still, you want to arm your boys too. We're seeing it. Charles Vallow, victim of domestic violence. We see it. Matthew Rosselli, victim of domestic violence. Just, it's common, unfortunately. Russell was so thin. Yeah. Oh gosh. It just, there are no words. No words. The way both set of parents came together is so inspiring. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of a really good example of how you do it right when you have blended families, is that when all sides can come together and just love the kid and support the kid. It seemed like they really all were invested, and bloodlines aren't really as defined when there's just that much love there, and that seemed to be the case with them. And I can't remember. Oh, look who is in the chat. Surviving the Survivor. Thank you for gifting a membership. Not sure if that's Joel or COE or whoever, but hey, y'all. Um, COE. Oh, I see ya. Can't stay because Joel is covering a different topic, but wanted to stop by and say hi. We'll catch up later. Yeah, this was an unintended YouTube live that I'm really happy happened. Cause y'all, I'm gonna be honest, y'all are gonna think that I'm crazy, but I get really nervous if I do a live with just on YouTube. I don't know. I just get really, really nervous. Thank you, Tiffany, for gifting a membership. Rain and Green, I love that. That means we just got more members on the channel. Thank you so much, Susie X. So, yeah, we got just a big year of trials coming up, and I'm ready. I'm so ready to do it. It's going to be busy, going to be on the road here and there, but there is nothing like sitting in a courtroom. And if you have Twitter, I love to kind of live tweet jury reactions. And when Zach Hughes was on the stand in his own defense, the judge had ruled the child abuse materials couldn't come in, and so a couple of times he sort of snuck it in there. And I will tell you that when Bradley Post was on the stand, he was identified as the fiance. He found her body. They see he's in a jail jumpsuit. He says that he's living off of some businesses he sold in his retirement. You kind of put 2 and 2 together and think he's got money. So if he could bond out, he probably would. And every time his cell phone was mentioned, the jury was sent out. So you could see the wagons kinda, or wagon wheels turning. Thank you so much, Lois. Um, Turning in their heads that they knew there was a connection there. And then that 3rd time that Zachary Hughes, he literally turned to the jury. He's like, something like, we thought there was abuse. There was, it was proven, there is proof, and the state is hiding it from you. Y'all, that jury, so we had a row of media that was there every day. It was me, Jen Wood from Fitz News, Dylan from Fitz News. We had Troy from Blunt Force Media, just a bunch of us back there. They look right at us and they're like, and we're like, we're looking at them and we're all just giving the same like, oh. And a juror talked to Fitz News and said at one point, when the bailiff took him back during an objection, maybe like the second time he mentioned something about the child abuse materials, they didn't shut the door all the way. So the jury heard the judge say, well, this can't come in. And Zach Hughes said, I put my hand on the Bible to tell the truth. I'm just telling my truth. So they did hear that. Apparently, there were a few holdouts in the beginning, like maybe 2 or 3, that did not want to convict him for murder. And according to this juror that spoke with Fitz News, I will post the link to that. It's very in depth. They also just interviewed his defense attorneys. I want to watch that. But it wasn't until a deliberating juror literally hit the table 35 times and said that was the number of times she was stabbed. How is that not malice? And that was what turned everybody, just the 35 hits on the table. It was a hard trial for me to cover because for me, I love bringing victims to life when we're learning their stories and anything I can find where family have talked to media or anything I can find on social media. Just because I like to tell who they are behind the headlines that we know them for. There was nothing redeeming about Christina Parcell. Nothing. You can't do that to your kid. It was just interesting locally when that came out, how she went really quickly from victim to villain. And there was no sympathy to be had. And the state knew that. They knew if this came in, it dirties your victim up and you're going to get 1 or 2 people possibly that, even though what Zach Hughes did was wrong and really brutal, when you kind of weigh it out, people say, he saved that kid at the end of the day from abuse because at that point, John Mello was in Italy and he wasn't, he wasn't able to come home because he knew he would be arrested, which those were eventually dropped. So it was just one of those moments. It was one of the most explosive moments in a courtroom I've ever had because they literally just looked right at us like they're waiting because they knew that sometimes when they would come back in and it would get heated, that we were probably typing really fast or kind of whispering or whatever. As soon as he said that, they're like, and we look at them, we're like, oh, man, that was wild. Yeah, don't forget the like button. If you hadn't subscribed, click subscribe, that little bell icon if you want notifications. I'm really trying to make a point of doing more YouTube shorts to get little bits and pieces of news as they happen out there. I appreciate you guys so much. The rose petals, yeah, Mimi. Crazy case, and it was in my backyard. Oh, let's see. Nana says, you actually look more relaxed now once you hit your stride than on your non-live videos. You rock. Check out the snowplow trial in New Hampshire, please. Will do, Nana. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. You get like in your, I'm going to do an episode mode to where you get me on here and it's like the ADHD side of me comes out. My Patreon people totally know this. We go on an ADHD field trip, at least one live. Every live. Oh, thanks, Susan. Love you guys too. Northwest says everyone should occasionally spend a day at their local courthouse. That is so true, especially if you follow true crime, because being there in person to live stream, like it is a wonderful world we live in if you like to watch the judicial process unfold, to be able to turn on Law and Crime and watch a whole trial from gavel to gavel. But being there in person is such a different dynamic. Watching that jury react, watching family members of the defendant, of the victims, I felt bad for Zach Hughes's dad. He really, you could just every minute of every day see that sadness on his face. Um, I know some people had issue with his impact statement he gave before sentencing. He's a father. But Zach had a whole side every day full of supporters. And on Christina's side, her sister was there daily. I believe one might have been the victim's advocate and then a third most days. But the jury also would look at that weight difference on both sides. You would see them at the first few minutes every day of kind of, because then you kinda can figure out who's media. Their side were just general members of the public, and then kind of a media overflow side on the prosecution side. Really good prosecutor, though. Walt Wilkins is, such a nice guy and does a really good job. Courtney Clinty, yes, I am Jill. In fact, I really want to do a big backstory on that. And yeah, so I want to do a backstory on that and follow that trial for sure. If it's not being live streamed, I typically don't follow it. It's just too hard. I don't like to depend on other people's tweets and their hard work um, to get my facts. And then I'm kind of the same person too that if I can't read it or hear it with my own ears, it's not that I don't trust people, but I just feel better about it to make sure I'm getting context right. So as long as that one's being streamed, I'm all in. Really though, Lori Vallow, Corey Richins, Donna Adelson, and then we have Brian Koberger. Still set for August. That's going to be interesting. I need to check and see if there's been any, and I'm going to do it right now. Have there been any new things put out there? Mm, yeah. Let's see. State's response to defendant's motion in limine regarding the IGG evidence. Improper expert opinion testimony. State's response for unnoticed 404B evidence. So I may do this tomorrow, y'all. I may go through these filings and see if there's anything new. State's response to defendant's motion for leave to file additional expert witness disclosure. So yeah, we got some stuff to go over there. We got those text messages between the roommates and the 911 call transcript. Kind of think maybe that the young man that was on the phone with 911 was the only one that saw anything. You could tell there was confusion. Um, no time to attend trials. That's why I'm grateful for Gigi's reporting. Love the shorts, recaps, and STS guest episodes. Yeah. My jam is covering trials, y'all. I love it. Koberger was on NBC Nightly News. Okay, I'll rewatch. I got YouTube TV. You can go back and restream it. I love it. They showed a piece of video on Court TV the girls made in Delphi. So apparently there's been a release today of like 40 something seconds of the bridge video. So I will see if I can get that uploaded onto my YouTube when we're done here. Yeah, apparently it's just the extended version of what we've seen all these years. Johnny Depp trial taught me how legacy media will not accurately say what's going on. I didn't follow that one. I wish I had. But it was so long and I still really couldn't tell you what happened in that one. Hey Inked. And I need to do another jail to prison series. So I have a new contact in Florida. She is kin to someone I know. And she was in the same facility as Katie Magbanawa, and so I need to add her on Securus and see, does she know her? And did she ever deal with her? So if she did, I'll do an episode on that. But also, I want to do another jail or prison series for her experiences in Florida. The ones I've done have been California with my contact there. These, obviously very different system in Florida. So look for that soon. I need to make initial contact with her, but she did want to talk to me. So that could be something we're doing too. A lot of people love that. It's insightful. It is a whole world in there, totally separate from ours. They have their own economy, their own rules. I would not thrive in prison. Although I joke with Joel from STS because like he has this irrational fear of being arrested and going to prison. I don't know if it's irrational because anything's possible these days, like being wrongly accused. But I'm like, we need to find a prison that will let me and you go in there for like a week and we just live it. Like we can come home in a week, but how crazy would that be? I don't know. I'd be crying for my mama probably by the nighttime. Oh, inked. Yeah. We've been going now for an hour. I'm going to wrap it up here soon. Amber heard grade B acting, narcissist lying. That's the recap from Susie X. I may go back and rewatch like the highlights of that. You're a gel cook. Oh, wow, Tara. My dad invented a product that, so you may know what I'm talking about, Tara. And if anybody is Kettle Seal, KETTLESEAL.com, he invented the big industrial cooking kettles that are used like colleges, hospitals, prisons. They have a draw off valve. So you're cooking this insane amount of like beans or soup. And then at the end, you have to undo this valve and let the hot water drain. Years ago, here at the Greenville County Detention Center, they had an inmate get burned because the ones that come standard are made of rubber, and over time, that rubber wears down, and you can guess where it goes, right in the food, and then they leak, and you're leaking piping hot boiling water. So they call my dad is like MacGyver, right? He's the smartest dude I know, very hard worker, and they're like, "We need a solution. Can you come up with anything?" I remember going to the house and he had a big pot on the stove and he is boiling food grade nylon. Within a few days, he has this prototype, this food grade nylon that expands to fit that little hole where the liquid would come out and it doesn't leak. So you spend a ton of money for this stuff on a regular basis because it wears down so fast. And then all of a sudden, he's got a fix for it and it doesn't leak anymore. And then your cost is reduced. So, anyways, you're a jail cook. You may know those kettles that I'm talking about, but he did. He's sold to like some federal prisons and some state prisons and a lot in Missouri, a lot here in South Carolina, and he's got patents all over the place. But I always like I need to do a commercial on my podcast for my dad. So there's that. Yeah, he's it's like a huge well, no, it's really, they're just industrial kitchen kettles, so big silver things that you just cook a lot at one time. They're just big, and you can do beans, soup. It's not a pressure cooker, it's more of like a huge big old pot if you're cooking something that needs to be boiled or heated up like that, this liquid. Oh, wow. A dog named Boo. I heard your and I remember your name. I heard your podcast with Fruit Loop the day they found the children. It wasn't until much later I realized that was your very first episode, followed ever since. Saw Nate Eaton in the air over Chad's place. Fruit Loop at the time lived 5 minutes from me. And I called and we had talked about doing a podcast. At one point, we were thinking about doing just one for local stuff like Greenville, what's happening, cool places to go. And then it wasn't until Nate went in the air that I was like, "Hey, let's just sign up and do it." We had 7 listeners that day. Probably 5 were our family and a dog named Boo, and a couple of others, but we got very lucky. We Fruit Loop and I just been best friends since high school. She is probably one of the absolute sweetest people I've ever met. She is a server and a giver. I don't think I never grew up with anybody that had that big of a heart that just lives to serve other people that are my age other than her. Uh, she is just like an angel on earth. I'm gonna tear up, but so blessed. And her and Brienne have done so much with the hiding place, the domestic violence safe haven, saving lives, making differences. My daughters go watch the kids at their group session for survivors of domestic violence every week. And I love the fact that my girls are there and get to know these survivors and their children and very fortunate. And so even though Fruit Loop and I went in different paths, her calling was that this is mine. We still, try to meet in the middle and share their posts and it's all just support in a different way. But those ladies have done so much and I'm just so proud of them. Nate's coverage of the house tearing down was surreal. Yeah. I stood there before Lori's sentencing, and I'm going to tell you guys one of the heaviest feelings I had. knowing what happened to Tammy on that property, knowing about the kids. Um, but at the same time, it was heavy, but there was also kind of a little bit of a peaceful feeling too. Um, those poor babies, poor Tammy, poor Charles, and almost, Brandon too. Thank goodness. He's okay, physically, and he's married to a very beautiful woman from what I've seen online. I haven't met her in person, but she's beautiful, and those babies, that he shares with Melanice. Um, yeah, a lot of lives messed up with that case, and not just directly victims. You look at friends of JJ, friends of Tylee, friends of Tammy, her students, Charles, his family, his friends. It's just so far reaching. It's such a wide net of victims in every case. Every victim has friends or, friends that are like family. It's just, man, to lose somebody in that way, any kind of a sudden death has to be horrible, but accidents is like, gosh, I mean, devastating, but you can sort of say they happen, and it's horrible when it's somebody you love, but to know that somebody chose to take your loved one out of this world when otherwise they would have been fine. Knock on wood. Can't imagine how that must feel. Um, my heart just goes out. I love the first 48. It is just such a well done show, but I always have to fast forward when they go do the notification. I can't handle those very primitive screams, that moment where it just hits. Somebody you love's been killed, murdered at the hands of another. Can't imagine. Horrible. Yeah, my husband and I watched Nate's coverage of the house being torn down. We were chilled through and through. Yeah, and I mean, you have Chad's family, his brother, Matt and Heather, who pass by it every day. I'm sure they were happy to see it go. And the community as a whole, these investigators, Rexburg is so tiny. I love it there. It's beautiful, but it's small. And so, can you imagine as an investigator who was there that day to have to pass by that house every day, the ones that responded to Tammy's 911 call? Um, Man, I just have so much respect for investigators, homicide detectives, forensics, the things that they see. I used to work in a morgue, but I could never roll up on something fresh like that. It would traumatize me. Um, yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna understand the choices that Lori made. Although, I will say this. Um, my theory is that we know Lori's been diagnosed with religious delusions, and I totally believe she has that. I also think that when you lie to investigators when they're there looking for your son in such a way that the investigators were able to walk off and sort of, at least they weren't full. No, oh my gosh, Kitty. Oh gosh, about to turn my mic off. Um, you go back to when Charles was shot. Okay. Um, those investigators listened to it. Um, she was offered a victim's advocate 30 minutes into her version of events. She was good at convincing people, that the lies were real. At the same time, I do think she had those religious delusions. But you also have culpability. And when you lie and say that your son is in Arizona, it's because if you tell him the truth, you're going to prison. So you have that thing there. It's scary. It's scary. And then you think that's not gonna happen again. Like, that was such an isolated case. And then you have Blaze Thibodeau. Remember, he was missing. His mother thought he was like there to usher in the second coming. And I always say, I think JJ and Tylee's case really was maybe saved that boy's life because at that point we knew how dangerous it was when somebody says, "Oh, he's a chosen one. He's got to usher in the second coming." Um, to where had JJ, it's like maybe some lessons were learned there, and then he was found unharmed, at least physically. We haven't really heard much about that anymore, but and then you have Ruby Frankie and Jody Hildebrandt who were calling them demons and possessed and the light is gone, and it's just like, how do people believe this stuff? Like, how can you look at your kid and be like, you're a demon, you're possessed? I don't know. I mean, I never even spanked my kids. So it's like my fear is something happening to my kids. So as a mother, for me, it's so foreign how you could ever look at your kid and just, do that. But it's a crazy world we live in, y'all. And we see it every day. Yeah, Kitty got me on my arm because he was about to hit the power button and y'all have been lip reading. Um, is Kay in here? Did I see Kay Woodcock? Love me some Kay and Larry. They are good people, willfully delusional. And look, I mean, I'm no psychiatrist. Very possible. If there weren't so many echoes of Lori and Chad, then yeah, I'd say there's nothing to see here. Unfortunately, that's not been the case. Hey, difficult reason. That's a really, really good point. I think that, when this case first started, I thought this is like the little group. Okay, it ends here. And then you find out there were a lot of people who did believe, and I think probably still do believe in some line of that. And it's terrifying. It is just terrifying. Um, oh yeah, widespread. Look, we're parents, right? And human. I tell my kids all the time, if I get frustrated, I'm like, sorry, I'm just human. Like I have a limit. Yeah, you go in the garage and scream for a moment. Never lay a finger on them. That's just it. Like, how could you grow that baby and nurse them and be there 24/7 and like you get that first smile and ever like think that kid is anything but precious. But we're not murderous, right? So yeah, lots going on, guys. I'm really excited about everything coming up. We're gonna be busy, but I love to see justice just start to unfold for these cases that we've been covering for quite a while now. And this year, we're just one after the other, finally, for these families especially, to be able to get some peace, or at least that part being over. Um, it's time in all these cases, 2019, Charles Vallow was killed. It is 2025. Um, you know, so it's time and I'm ready. I'm here for it. Let's do it. I will be definitely doing a lot of YouTube shorts and live tweeting when I'm out there. Planning to go to Adelson it's only 6 hours from here. I'm gonna make a vacay of it. Go on the Gulf side where like the water's blue and it's like you can pretend you're in the Bahamas for a minute. I haven't been anywhere like that in so long, y'all. My vacations have been, although I do have to say I love Boise. Like that is my new favorite city. It is the coolest, nicest people ever. Good food, the best fry sauce ever. Just a lot to do. And I went on the freaking Oregon Trail, which was an 80s girls dream. And in fact, y'all, I might be look, little piece of the Oregon Trail right there. I played that. Look, okay, I played the Oregon Trail every day in middle school from 6th to 8th grade. Always died of dysentery or a snake bite, right? So I go up to Boise, get on the actual Oregon Trail, nerd heaven, come home, beat the game, finally in my 40s, made it all the way to Oregon. Y'all, you'd have thought like, yeah, you'd have thought I won the lottery. I was jumping up and down, screaming, and now they have a new version of it with better graphics, but I prefer the old school. You can play it online. If you Google like original Oregon Trail, you can play it with a Mac or PC on a website. You don't have to download nothing. Um, I made it to Oregon. Oh, RM, thank you so much. I love people. I love people. I'll show y'all a picture of me on the Oregon Trail before I go. Let's see, that would be you think about back in those days, I watched was it 1883? I haven't finished it yet. I've got one more episode with Sam Elliott, Tim McGraw, Faith Hill. Um, you look at what they had to go through on the road, man, they were tough. Tough, tough, tough. Okay, check it out. Let's see here. I did my pointing. I'm going to the Oregon Trail. So that's actual ruts from it ground down to stone. And yeah, legit. The minute I stepped on it, I take a picture of my shoes. I was so excited. There's gold in them hills, because they split off. So at one point on the trail, you had to choose if you were going for the gold rush or if you're going to Homestead, like in Oregon. And it's still there. There's a plaque that not in Boise, but the dividing point where you said goodbye to everybody you had been on the trail with and stuff. Oh, I'm such a nerd. I love it. Also the old penitentiary there in Boise is really cool. It's very eerie. Yeah, but you can see the divots there, the ruts. So those are still ruts that just the wagon wheels went down into, I think it was maybe sandstone. So it's not very hard rock, in rock terms, I guess, but they're still there. You just see literally how wide those wagons were. I was like FaceTiming everybody. I FaceTime Fruit Loop. I'm like, I'm on the Oregon Trail. Oh my gosh. I need to buy my oxen and go to the general store and get my pellet gun and shoot some bears. You died of a snake bite in 84. Okay, so funny story. Okay, last story, and then I'm going. So I was walking the Oregon Trail, and I see something in the grass kind of moving. And I'm like, that's weird. So I think maybe a mouse and a snake comes out. And I'm like, y'all, if I die of a snake bite on the Oregon Trail in 2024, I wouldn't even be mad. Like, I would be like, here lies Gigi. I was like, how crazy would it have been though if I totally got snake bit by a venomous snake on the Oregon Trail and died right there, where wagons have been trucking along for decades. I love that Cresha's here too. Cresha is so sweet. I love, love, love Cresha. I'm glad you came. Amanda, thank you. Let's see here. Just genuine Jenny Stout. Love you, Gigi. Make it possible to be in a positive community and still learn through these tough cases. Thank you. The biggest thing I love about what I do is the community. Seriously, I know everybody says it, but we got the best community in true crime right here. Somebody in here. I'm still live. You know how my ADHD is. Uh-oh, here we go. She got them hands crossed. She gonna ask for something.
Okay, so you know how the spring break, me and Gabby were planning to see if we could go to the Biltmore together and take photos together? Well, Dad's not going to be in town. So me and Gabby were just on the phone, and we had an idea that maybe her mom could go and you can go, and me and Gabby could go dress shopping on Friday for us to get cute dresses so we can take photos together. Because we want to take best friends
at the Biltmore estate.
Yeah,
let's do it.
And Wednesday night is the only night that kind of works good for us.
What night is that? 'Cause the 20th, I'm doing something.
Because
that's the 19th.
Okay, because Tuesday I'm going to talk golf with Gabby, and then Wednesday I could spend the night at her house on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday night, she could spend the night here, right after we take photos. And it would be fun because it will give you a chance to talk to her mom and stuff and bond, and then me and Gabby can have fun. But I don't know how if the Biltmore is bad after Helene.
No, I think the Biltmore's back open, but we'll double check. Yeah, that sounds good. All right, I'm gonna tell everybody good night because I gotta get in the bed.
Okay. I would say good night, but I look like.
All right, are you going to bed?
I'm about to.
All right, give me a hug. I can see you from here. All right, give me a hug. I love you too.
Well, I'm not going to bed right now.
Okay. Y'all see my record player back here? That's my vinyls. So yeah, well, thank you guys. This was a pleasant surprise. I did not know I was going live for everybody, but it was fun. Thank you guys. I'll go back through and read all the comments because they were really scrolling past. And if I do that, then I get off track. And my Patreon people will tell you I'm like that dogging up, where I can be talking and this squirrel, and then I'm off. I'm done. We'll have a 10-minute conversation about something totally unrelated to what we were doing. Even worse if I don't take that ADHD medicine, but hey. Oh yeah, so we love the Biltmore. It's 40 minutes from here. Maybe, not far. Beautiful. I've never been inside the
It's
Biltmore.
so beautiful.
I think I have been
Okay,
inside.
it's literally the most gorgeous place I've ever been. The photo spots are amazing. Like, there's this one part on like the side of the house where it's kind of like a balcony, and
Oh, do you picture yourself like standing at the balcony in a big dress and being like,
no, not big, like kind of a cute little dress, and it overlooks all the mountains, and like it's just so gorgeous. And I want to take photos with my best friend Gabby.
all right, so we're doing that spring break, the 19th.
Look at the lavender
Oh, that's
that
pretty.
hangs over.
Yeah,
there.
I think the Biltmore's open. You know, Hurricane Helene came right over Greenville. We got the eye wall so bad. And Western North Carolina just, you know, got socked so bad. And it's going to be a generational recovery for them. And man, just heartbreaking. But some areas are slowly coming back to life. And we love Asheville. So we go to Asheville a lot. It's 35 minutes from here. All right, guys. Awesome sauce. I appreciate you guys. We will see you soon. And I'm going to go over these Coburger documents probably in the morning and do an episode on what's new with that tomorrow. If you guys ever have suggestions, hit me up in like YouTube comments, Twitter comments. I try to, you know, keep everybody happy. So if there's a case I'm not covering, you want me to look into, I've got some here. I'll write those down later. And that's it. All right. See you guys.